All right, welcome, folks. Welcome back to the Prozone Empire. I am your emperor and your host, Protector 6. It's time for the Imperial Forum series once again. And tonight we're going to be talking about the potential future landscape of streaming, specifically with video game streaming, such as myself. And we have a special guest. We have the head of the Inquisition himself, Disco Volante, joining us. The Inquisition is here. It's a little scary, but it's okay, folks. Worst comes to worst, I will throw him in the dungeon. It's my favorite pastime.
I get no respect.
There is no respect in the Empire. Only the Emperor gets respect. Reverence.
Well, I guess this is not a democracy, is it?
I figured everyone knew when you're an empire, there is no democracy. The only democracy is a democratic, constitutional monarchy. But that's not an empire.
Constitutional monarchy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's not really that constitutional either, because you seem to just be able to throw people in the dungeon at will.
I mean, that's Great Britain. I said that's the only type of democracy with monarchy.
Oh, I really like the webcam borders. These look good.
I know. You can thank Alpha Gaming. He has those for free for streamers. So I'm using those because I don't actually use a real frame myself.
Yeah, these look good.
But anyway, so we have a really cool topic tonight.
We do indeed.
I mean,
the
not to say
streaming platform. Yes.
Not to say any of the others aren't really cool and exciting, but they're a little more niche. This seems to be more applicable for the wider Twitch streamer community as a whole. So I guess before we go into it, I guess you can give yourself an introduction, considering we only know you for your moderator and your Wayne hating duties.
Wayne hating? I think you mean Hwasa fanning duties. Fanning? Fanship? I would fan Hwasa if that's what she wanted. You know that that Hwasa fan account, Hwasa's throne is my face. I may or may not be the owner of that account. But that aside, yes, my name's Disco Volante. I'm a musician. I am the head, Protector 6's loyal head of the Inquisition. I'm a streamer myself, occasionally. And, of course, an avid gamer as well. So this topic is sort of great interest to both of us, because both of us are really big fans of the developing streaming landscape, and also the, you know, what the new developments in the streaming world might mean for people like he and I. So I'm really excited to talk about that this evening. And, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and get started, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, I remember. It's really cool because now we're expanding the Imperial Forum to be interview style. So I'm hoping we can do more interview style Imperial Forums for the future. Just to let everyone know, we will be posting Imperial Forums, not the live stream version. I've decided for Imperial Forums, we're going to make separate recorded videos to put on YouTube rather than these live versions. So if you miss it or you want to remember it, definitely check the YouTube channel out, and you can definitely find it through our Discord, or you can find it on YouTube by searching Protector_6. But okay, so let's start. So I guess I'll just start off by saying I see a very specific path for what live streaming is going to become because of what Mixer has done. As you all know, Twitch is owned by Amazon, Mixer is owned by Microsoft. So it's got a big backer behind it, and the fact that they made exclusive deals for Shroud and Ninja is huge, and I think it's game-changing. And in the sense that before, streamers, it was sort of like a independent contractor, and the agreement was not like exclusive deals for like they are, like Twitch has their partner program, but you can quit that anytime. Either side can terminate that contract. So it's almost like just a freelance contractor agreement. But what Mixer's done with Shroud and Ninja is saying you're going to stream on Mixer exclusively for this many years, and we're going to pay you this amount of money. Now, the sad thing is that we don't have any ideas about the actual terms, the actual contracts. This is where esports and streaming is falling behind other more popular industries where you can find those numbers and those details, and that would be really helpful for our discussion, what I think streaming is going to become. But sadly, we
Well,
don't.
there's
So
also the possibility that they're being a little bit more circumspect about those numbers.
yeah, it could be, but I just think it's media and people aren't really trying to find out those details as much as other
I
industries.
mean, it's sort of the same thing as like even back in probably the 90s, like video games were like really like controversial, and it's only recently that they've even kind of gained mainstream acceptance as a legitimate form of media and entertainment.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely going to be lagging behind any kind of metrics we have on
Hmm.
sports, especially.
Yeah. So basically, what I think the future will become could dramatically change if we ever get the details for those deals. So what I'm thinking, it's first off, it's under the assumption these are exclusive deals that says, hey, Ninja Shroud, whatever your contract is, this Mixer is going to be paying you a contract of this amount of money over this amount of years. So that's the basis of what my criteria is for what the future of streaming will become, is that we're under that assumption. Let's just say, okay, randomly, let's say they're going to pay, let's say Mixer made agreement with Ninja, we're going to pay you like $10 million over 3 years to
Hmm.
only stream on Mixer, and you can't void this contract unless certain clauses are met or violated.
Yeah.
So under that assumption, I think for the overall future of streaming, it's going to become sort of like sports industry, where you can see in esports with the contracts they have, but it's being put into live streaming, where you're going to have a lot of large and even we could say mid-tier streamers have exclusive contracts with the actual streaming platforms. And that's where I see it becoming, where like it really depends though on what Twitch does. Is Twitch now going to offer Tim the Tap Man an exclusive contract to say, hey, you're going to stream only on Twitch for this amount of years, for this amount of money? And that's the real question. Will Twitch do that? Because if Twitch does that, it becomes sort of like an arms race, and then we'll see this future where I think everyone is going to be, all the large streamers going to be contracted out between Mixer, Twitch, and whatever new, maybe YouTube or Facebook starts handing out contracts, and that will be the future.
The way I see it is less more like the sports industry and more like the music industry, because the difference between like what Mixer has done with Ninja and Shroud and like what a sports team does, for instance, is like when you have sports players, I don't really know a lot of you. In fact, you'd probably be better equipped to talk about this than I. But like sports players will often get traded between teams. Different clubs will, as basically as they fancy, or like whoever's performing best, trade for more desirable players, or trade away people who aren't necessarily performing well. If I had to guess, I would expect the terms are something along the lines of those big recording contracts you used to hear about, which is like, okay, we're going to advance you this much money, and all of the money that we generate from your video, like that's an advance against what you're going to make for us. Meaning, like when your streamers tune in and they see the ads, that money basically gets paid back to us. And so I don't think they'd necessarily be paying them to like to stream more. I think the terms are probably something more along the lines of like, we're going to advance you $10 million, and basically by streaming they're paying back Mixer. That's my theory about it. And I think what that's going to do is, ultimately you're going to have organizations like Twitch, like Mixer, like whatever Facebook is coming out with, who will contract the most popular streamers in the same way that Warner Brothers or Sony might contract the most popular musicians, and kind of sign these advanced deals with them. Because the last thing you want is to agree to pay a streamer $3 million or $10 million over 3 years, or whatever whatever number it is, and then like in their second or third year they don't perform as well as you originally expected. I suppose that's a risk in sports management as well. So I'd kind of like to hear your analog to that, but I think the terms are probably closer to basically the money that these streamers get paid to move exclusively to a platform is more of an advance necessarily than a salary.
I think that could be the case, but I think in this instance, what Mixer has done is probably more of a salary because
I think probably in this case because it's like it's a brand new idea.
yeah.
Like
So I
streamers,
think
it's sort of
the way I see it is that maybe for like mid tier streamers, they would do something like what you're talking about, and maybe as a whole, after these initial contracts are over, they switch that with the larger streamers. But I think just the way it's like, oh, this is a good analogy. So when the Washington Nationals sucked, and I mean they really sucked when they came first in DC in what like '04 or '06. It's in the sense that no one's going to Washington unless you overpay them. And in your idea of the whole advanced contracts, there's no, I don't, the way you're describing them, it doesn't make sense for Ninja Shroud to move based off of those, where there's so many conditions when they're already making a boatload of money at Twitch. So the only way to entice them is basically no conditions attached money to move them over. Because like I understand the whole idea about the advanced contracts, like this we're recouping it in other ways. So here's all the money up front and we'll recoup whatever we can later.
Right, exactly.
But like why would then Shroud, who has like 1 million followers, like tons of money, Ninja, why would they move for that? You know, maybe the advance is really nice. And maybe that is. And this is the problem is we don't know the contracts. So
well,
like,
yeah, but don't forget. I mean, it's the same. It's the same sort of thing. Like the amount of money that they're making is it's like a kind of a small. It's a steady stream of money that is coming from like whatever revenue they generate from placements, from advertisements, from their subscriptions, etc. And like $10 million all at once. Like that's a different story.
Yeah, but I just don't. But they're based off of their community. How it's so many unknowns on how many people would switch from Twitch to Mixer. I think is, I don't know. I just take it as in the sense of why would they move unless it's a guaranteed amount with no strings attached sort of thing. Other than
yeah, I hear you. I think though, I mean that assumes that they understand their own revenue generation potential, because I think when you talk about deals like like what I was suggesting, this is not an ethical practice, but the idea is that you advance the money in an amount lesser than what you ultimately expect to generate from from having them associated essentially with your brand, with your label, in this case with Mixer. But you're right. I mean, I think these people, like they understand what can be done with the power of social media and the power of streaming and like their own earning potential. So maybe it is something closer to like it's just a flat fee of like, oh, we're gonna pay you this much money over this many years for you to stream exclusively on our platform.
Well, you do realize they have representation, so they literally have an agency representing them. So Ninja is being represented by an agency. Shroud is represented by an agency. So I think it's like they're basically their agents. So that's why I also think it's more, at least initially, more of the whole idea of a salary idea, because their representation is probably like, I don't know. Like, we don't know the terms of the agreement. That's the most thing that I've found really annoying. Is trying to predict this future. Like, you're talking about the whole more music label deals. I'm thinking more salary because I'm looking at the agency. But who knows? But the point is that we both think in the future, a lot of streamers with any clout are going to be contracted in some way exclusively through one of these platforms for a set amount of time.
I think it's good too. I think that Mixer's doing a really good thing by basically forcing themselves into competition with Twitch.
Yeah, I think it helps because the fact that they have Microsoft. It's basically Amazon versus Microsoft, which really helps them to make moves like this. That like Caffeine, the other smaller streaming platforms can't do. Because they can't take that sort of financial risk, and can't give the financial incentive, and they don't have the numbers to entice these big streamers. But it's really cool seeing this development.
It is, and like I mean, this is a little bit preemptive, but The problem with such enormous like behemoths making these moves so early on is you risk it becoming like a very oligarchical kind of situation with like, oh, like if you want to be a street like if you want to be a professional streamer, these are your two options, and ultimately that's bad for competition. Like there's no incentive for any innovation. But at the moment, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, when you have like two or three options that dominate a field, later
Mhm.
on it's harder to get in otherwise. But like with streaming, especially
Mhm.
right now, like,
And I think what's really going to throw a wrench into things is when Facebook finally comes out with their platform.
well, they have, but it's the rollout's not been great. But yeah, and YouTube is starting to get into it, and it really depends. Like how it would be interesting if YouTube and Facebook decide to really up their
Well,
game
it
in
will
this.
because Microsoft versus Amazon. I think that can lead to some problems. But if you have Google versus Amazon versus Microsoft versus Facebook, then you have then you have a rumble. Then people might actually be encouraged to innovate, especially because that would be the first time that all four of those like mega companies have ever competed in the same field.
Hmm.
All of them are sort of have differentiated themselves to the point where they're never really in direct competition with each other. I mean, Amazon uses Google technology for their website, like Facebook uses Google technology, like, Twitch and Microsoft and Mixer and their associations have a lot of, Amazon Web Services is huge for a lot of infrastructure for, I'm sure, a lot of these companies. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they all end up basically in the same arena.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. But yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens. I'm just waiting for what Twitch does, and that's what like it's gonna determine what I think the future will be. This is like my
Uh-huh.
idea based off what Mixer's done, but it really
Right.
depends what Twitch does in response. Like, are they like gonna be like, "Ha, try to poach more," or are they gonna try to lock in like Dr. Lupo, Tin the Tap Man, some of their biggest streamers? Are they gonna lock them in? And if they
I,
lock them in, it'll be really interesting to see the dynamic, and then how Mixer starts trying to poach other streamers from Twitch, etc.
Mhm. But Twitch could double down and just be like, oh, well, guess what? You want a contract with Mixer, you got to follow all these rules. Like you keep streaming with us, and it's still like the Wild West. So that's another path that they could take. They could be kind of like the rogue.
Oh, definitely. So that's why I'm just waiting to see what Twitch does
Yeah, definitely an interesting proposal.
and what who Mixer tries to entice over next. I think
Uh-huh.
if they could get like Tin the Tap Man, then I would love to see Twitch's reaction to that. To be lose Ninja, to lose like Ninja was still huge, but he was starting to lose some popularity. Tin the Tap Man gets I think like 40,000 people in his stream. Something
Hmm.
ridiculous, like average like 40,000 concurrent viewers.
Well, and yeah, well, I'm wondering, the really established Twitch channels, like Critical Role, like what's that? There are a couple of really famous League channels too. Um, but there are ones that like basically the entire community is built around their Twitch following.
Hmm.
So I wonder. This actually kind of comes down to the user base. Like, how willing are the users of one
Yeah.
platform to transfer to another? And I think in Ninja's case, it was actually the perfect time for him to do it
Oh, it was
because
definitely his time.
like you said, like his popularity was waning a little bit. So it's like nice, like he could actually kind of use that as a springboard. Like, oh, like this is a refresh thing. Like this is brand new. Like the content's going to be, updated. Like this is kind of a fresh start. But like, what about a channel that's really established on Twitch?
I mean, he was Shroud was really established, and it's
Shroud is the one that surprises me more. I'm actually surprised he went to Mixer.
I think Mixer got away with the steal. Like like in like sports analogies, they're like they got like this crazy trade, and they were the one that benefited like 100%. The other side didn't really. That's what
Hmm.
the Shroud move felt like, because Shroud actually has a very loyal following that literally just watch for him. They don't watch for the game. Like he'll play different
Right. Well, and
games.
see, I think that's why it's going to work for him. But
Oh yeah,
I'm actually surprised that he was enticed to leave Twitch. I mean, not that it really matters for
the
a
money.
streamer, but
They must have paid him a lot of money.
yeah,
Like
I'm just thinking like, what kind of coin is Microsoft turning to make this happen?
I don't know, but they seem really serious. They're willing to go
Well, you know,
all in.
it's about time because honestly, Twitch has not been capitalizing on its potential.
Oh no.
I think Twitch and live streaming in general is absolutely the new YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You
That
know,
was.
YouTube is just not a viable platform to support professional entertainers anymore, thanks to the way Google restructured the
Mm-hmm.
payouts for it. And actually, a lot of people turn from YouTube to live streaming specifically because of that. PewDiePie did,
Mm-hmm.
and other, quite a few
Yeah.
other really
Yeah.
popular YouTubers. Still, YouTube and recorded media does exist, I think, as the gateway drug to live streaming, especially when it comes to gamers, and especially when it comes to people who can have like a continuous stream of content and benefit from sort of one-to-one interaction instead of producing a video. Interestingly enough, I've noticed the production value of recorded media, like things on YouTube and Nico Nico Video on Dailymotion. The actual production value has gone up for the people who have still chosen that as their medium of creation. But what you're not seeing quite so much anymore is that really vibrant community of up to the minute, like finger on the pulse creators. Like that's definitely
Mm-hmm.
the territory of live streaming. And I think that's only going to get better as Facebook's becomes more live streaming. We already have Instagram TV, which is slowly kind of getting adopted by the general populace. You have YouTube Live, and then of course you have Twitch and Mixer.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it is absolutely the future of live entertainment, I think. The real question I have though is if you not if YouTube if something like Twitch becomes a mainstream form of media, is that going to change the way people use it? Because right now, the reason that people like Ninja and Shroud can kind of hop platforms like this is specifically like what you said. They have a devoted following that watches for them. Now, when people start using services like Twitch or Mixer, not because of the people they're watching, but actually as a very personal form of like entertainment, then that completely changes the balance of why people are using a service, of why people are logging in and tuning
I
in
mean,
and
it's
consuming
already
media.
used for entertainment. I don't see if it becomes more mainstream that much differences unless Twitch starts putting more stations or stations like networks starts putting on their shows on Twitch. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like suddenly if Nickelodeon gets an account and they do their TV programming through Twitch, then it'll change things on its head. But unless something like that happens, I feel like Shroud it's like a TV show. Like people go and they say Shroud is my TV show. It's my Rugrats. It's my SpongeBob.
Mm.
He has a set schedule. I go in for a certain time and I watch him, and that's my TV show. That's how I view streamers right now. It's not as much. Granted, some people go for games, but a lot of people go for personalities and personas. And that's how people like streamers characterize themselves. Like you're an entertainer. You're like I remember one partner streamer was talking about this is my performance, my production, my play. Every stream is that. I'm giving a form of entertainment for people. So I don't know if it would change that much as more mainstream Twitch gets, unless you start seeing established media like networks putting their actual shows on Twitch along with whatever their TV channel is on cable.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's what I'm saying, because when you think about the early days of YouTube, it was very reflective of kind of the position that most streaming platforms are in right now. Like really honest entertainers, like content creators who are building communities around their content rather than around essentially their economy. So yeah, I mean, there's no way to know for sure, but I am curious to see how long that's going to take for the really big
Mm-hmm.
media outlets to start to infiltrate live streaming. I mean, you're starting to see it already to very small success, but it stands to reason that, with the attention that Mixer's drumming up, if there ends up being this like kind of bidding war for the influential streamers between Microsoft and Amazon, then suddenly you'll see people like NBC and you'll see people like HBO being like, oh hey, wait, we can make money here, like.
Yeah. But I think they'll see and they'll follow the model because
Mm.
they'll see that model creates money. And if they try to, the double-edged sword is, if they do, I think they'll do it like, hey, we'll have Rachel stream. We'll do it by personas. We won't do like, you know what I mean? I think like unless maybe Nickelodeon does my show, but I think they'll see, hey, we're obviously not reaching this audience through what we put on cable TV. So we need to adapt to them. So that'll be like Rachel will do streaming rather than we'll set the whole entire Rachel Maddow just shown on stream. That's what I think will happen.
That would be the sensible thing to do.
Because they'll see, because I think it's because they'll realize a different audience. This audience wants to intake their media in a certain way, and that's why they're going to live streams to begin with, and why they're choosing to watch live streams compared to watching you on cable on TV. And so maybe that, I think, so we could see them if they try to brute force and put their show straight up on, or we'll see maybe they'll do Persona and just take their most popular people and they'll put them on live stream. Now if it's like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Disney, it might get a little different. So maybe they won't even try. Maybe it'll be more news, more programming that's revolved around a personality, one single person or small group, rather than those wider shows.
Now, for me, what the interesting thing would be is if the networks like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon would devote the resources to actually producing like live streams, like but as characters, like characters from the shows that they program, and then like creating live streams.
I think it would depend on the show. So if you already have,
but that to me, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but like there could be some of that. Like, the sitcoms. Say it's a sitcom, like, Big Bang Theory was a live sitcom sort of thing. You could see those shows going on live stream. Because that's literally what they're doing anyway. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
The show is built around the idea of it being taped like in front of a live studio audience.
But so, the idea about
that translates pretty well.
Nickelodeon stuff, that would be very interesting.
I think that would be super cool. Like that's something that because I know the CEO of Nickelodeon is watching our stream right now. But
well, I wish.
That's something I would love to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. But we're talking about all this cool thing about what regular media could do, but that's far in the future. We don't know how they'll take hold. So let's step it back. Let's talk specifically what has basically started this explosion of ideas about the future streaming, and specifically, what do we think about the moves Ninja and Shroud made? Like, what are your thoughts on it in terms of maybe like not only in terms of we've been talking about the future streaming, or just your like first reaction to it?
I think it's good. I think it's disruptive, and I think it's kind of a power move, because basically by moving exclusively to Mixer, what they're saying is, Twitch, you did not treat us as well as Mixer is treating us. Who knows how long that's going to last, but it at least will make, because as two of Twitch's most popular users, that's going to hurt them. That's going to hurt their revenue. That's going to hurt their reputation. And now Twitch has to take a step back, and no matter what, they have to react. They, like I said, they can double down and be like, this is going to be the platform it always was. We refuse to partake in these kind of predatory poaching tactics. Or they can be like, hey, how about we offer more money than Microsoft to and basically start a bidding war. I don't think they'll want to do that, because I'm pretty sure Microsoft paid more money than they want to do anyway to sign exclusive contracts with them. If I had to guess, just based on what I know, I don't know how much control Amazon actually has over Twitch. I'm sure there's a fair amount of overlap between administration. But I would think that Twitch would, at this point, want to represent themselves as the platform that, like, it's sort of like the platform of the people. Microsoft has made a couple of mistakes in the past by making their products kind of too exclusive. Like we saw it with the Windows Phone. For a time, you saw it with Windows, the operating system, which is ironic because, Windows was like the most ubiquitous OS ever created. And then suddenly when, Apple started marketing itself as like, the easy to use, like for the people, like it just works. That really, really hurt Microsoft for a while. I mean, now it's kind of evening out again. But my expectation is these moves by Ninja and Shroud, like the way that Twitch could frame that is be like, oh yeah, and guess what? Like if Mixer doesn't develop well as a platform, they're stuck with them for the next however many years. Like Twitch, like, you know, we have all of Amazon Web Services behind us. We have like this kind of clout in the industry, and you know, we're going to pour our resources into creating a better platform for you, the user. But either way, like I think it's really, really interesting what Ninja and Shroud did, because it forces a reaction. You know, it like forces something from Twitch.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it was great, mainly because it prevents complacency from Twitch.
No, it creates real competition because now Twitch has to pay attention.
And especially in creative mediums, having a monopoly or just doesn't work. Like you can see, for instance, this is not streaming, but EA Sports. EA,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
a terrible
yeah.
studio now. And you can see it in their sports program, like Madden. Ever since they got the exclusive Madden agreement, their Maddens have steadily decreased in quality.
You can see it in fucking Star Wars Battlefront.
Exactly. So, like, we've seen this where if you get the monopoly on the IP or a certain, like, niche, it doesn't help. It makes everything worse because there's nowhere else anyone else can go, and that's how I feel like Twitch has become.
Well, that's what Twitch had become, and that's why this is good, because this forces them to do something.
This is chaos. As well, what's
There's a
the
disruptive
character?
maneuver, you know.
Littlefinger said in Game of Thrones, like, chaos is a ladder. Like, now it's becoming a ladder and allow people to climb up it instead of
What is it? It's also like what Caustic says. Entropy is the natural order of the universe.
Exactly. So I think it's cool.
I think it's great. I think it's you know, people like tech companies love to talk about disruptive technology, and to be perfectly honest, most of the tech companies that consider themselves to be disruptive technology aren't even remotely disruptive. Like Uber, they always call Uber a disruptive. It's not. It's a mini cab you call from a fucking app. What's disruptive about that? But anyway, and by the way, every Uber ride you take is subsidized by their investors. It's only cheaper because somebody else is paying for your ride, not because it's a better service. But that aside, you know, this move and actually what Mixer did to entice Ninja and Shroud to leave Twitch and to go exclusively to Mixer, that's a disruptive move. And that's something that I think was really necessary to kind of, you know, to kind of rustle up Twitch a little bit, because they were getting too they weren't developing the platform. There's really nothing innovative other than, you know, the initial creation of the platform that had happened since its inception about, well, maybe 10 years ago. And yeah, so I think it's really good. I don't know whether or not it was the right decision for them, because we don't have any details of the agreement. But I think in terms of like streaming at large, this serves two benefits. The first one is it challenges in a very big way the most ubiquitous streaming platform, which is obviously Twitch. But in another one, for the streaming community at large, this has the potential to start to place the idea of live streaming as a platform, as a topic of discussion. I mean, like look at the podcasts we're doing right now. I mean, we're having a serious discussion about streaming platforms, which is something that you definitely wouldn't have seen even maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I think it has the added effect of starting to project streaming as a legitimate form of entertainment into the public eye. Because, you know, like when you ask a lot of people about streaming, they're like, oh, like, you know, like cam girls. It's like, it kind of has that reputation, or it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of video game nerds. But things like this, they start to involve streaming in more levels of economy and more levels of society, to the point where you have to sort of take it seriously.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Ninja's move got national attention from national news sources says everything.
Right. That's exactly what I'm
saying. The fact that Ninja was on Masked Singer this season, the fact that Ninja was promoting his book on like Good Morning America, you know, this is all just showing how much streaming has evolved in the mainstream and now is more acceptable, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely would not see Ninja or any streamer on a show like Masked Singer, which
I
is
know, like, yeah,
prime time, 8 p.m., highly advertised show on a national network. No way.
Exactly. Forget about it. So yeah, that is all a benefit of sort of this growing interest in, you know, in the platform. but also in sort of the controversy of the platform. It's kind of like embracing the inner politics and sort of making them external.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, it was good. I mean, I think it was really good.
yeah, definitely. So we actually sort of already answered our thoughts on Mixer's actions to become a competitor to Twitch. So we'll move right on to the next question is...
Yeah, by the way, we sort of Pro put together this outline of the things we wanted to discuss. That's what I keep like glancing over, and we're kind of structuring the conversation around that.
Sort of, yeah. We got a little tangent, which was a good one about main media trying to potential entering streaming. But I guess a more general view question now. I guess this question is for present, but also the future. And this is more applicable for everyone because not everyone's a top streamer.
Right.
Do you think there are too many streamers right now? And do you think there will be too many streamers in the future?
No, I don't. I don't think there can ever be too many creators. I mean, you definitely, when something becomes mainstream, like in its popularity, there's more noise to cut through. But I think there are more. I think the more voices there are to be heard, the more innovative and the more creative you have to be to cut through the noise. So I think the more output, the better, especially with something so young. Right now, I think there's just the right amount of streamers, because when you consider the number of people who live stream seriously, like on a consistent basis, versus the people who have started putting videos on YouTube, or certainly the people who consume media like that, I think it's still a very small number of people comparatively. Like, just the fact that you can count the number of influential streamers probably on two hands, that's generally a good reflection of, the levels further down. But I think right now, I don't think there are too many streamers, and I don't think there ever will be too many streamers, because it's like any creative profession. It's like being an artist. It's like being a DJ. It's like being a musician. I mean, there are plenty of people who can claim to be, musicians. There are plenty of people who can claim to be DJs or who can claim to be painters. But at the end of the day, unless you approach it with something really honest, perhaps something unique, something well executed, and some content that has a lot of, authenticity and kind of honest artistic expression about it, it's never going to have the staying power that it requires.
Okay, so let me put it this way. What would you consider too many streamers that in a month, and what would you say is too many streamers concurrently streaming? There's got to be a number you think it's just that's too saturated. There's too many people at some point for a specific moment in time or over a month. If you had to put them on numbers to those.
Well, that's a tough question, actually, because then again, it's not like everybody would be streaming the same content.
That's true.
Okay, so what's the average player base of, like, say, Fortnite, for instance? Like, how many people play Fortnite every day?
I don't have those numbers up at the moment.
Let me check. Okay, so let's see. About 10.5 million people play Fortnite. That's a very high number. Is that all at one time?
No. That is
right?
Definitely not all at the same time. There's servers
that's like more than the childhood population of like, the East Coast.
No, PUBG had the highest number of concurrent viewers on stream. I mean players, and that hit like 1 million or something. And that was like the highest on Steam ever, so. I mean, Fortnite probably has more than that, but it can't be that. No,
there's no way. That would like exceed the total population of the East Coast.
Yeah, so.
Let's see. I know what Fortnite is. I want to know how many people play.
Oh, what's up, Divine? Thank you for the host coming in right for our talk, our podcast on the potential future landscape of streaming.
Anyway, the number isn't important. I would say, like, if more than half of like the player base of like a game is streaming that game at any one time, that's probably too many, because then there are more people who are streaming the game than just playing the game.
So let me tell you, in 2018, because 2009, actually I'll give you 2019 for the stats that Twitch Tracker has right now.
Okay.
Is 3.7 million monthly streamers,
Hmm.
and the average concurrent live channels is 49,700. So what you're saying, at any one time, over 40,000 streamers are streaming on Twitch, and in 1 month, over 3 million stream. Now they're not all serious streamers, but that's where I come through. It's like the idea of too many streamers. I think there's a thing where there's too many, especially something so unregulated. Like there's not really good organization. And so what I mean by too many streamers is, yeah, for the whole of the industry, this is great. You know, the more people you have involved, the better as a industry to grow it. But in terms of the average streamer, this is terrible. Because
Well, and you know what I would say to that, though? I think the problem doesn't lie in the number of users. The problem lies in the way those users are categorized. Because the beauty of YouTube was, you know, there are algorithms that would push videos to one person or another in a unique fashion.
that is
Twitch
true.
doesn't have anything like that.
Part of the problem with Twitch is discoverability is terrible on Twitch.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's why
so
I'm
you have to
saying,
be looking for something specific, you know, when you.
yeah. But that's why I'm saying at the moment there's too many streams, because like it's just like the Wild West, but it's like the Wild West of China if you were in Beijing, where there's like just too many people. You know what I'm talking about? Like in terms of like, no matter your content, it's very difficult for you to rise up against the shaft, just because there's so many others in the same position.
Yeah, I understand. And I think that ultimately comes down to the way that streamers are discoverable, the way that the videos are categorized. I mean, really, you honestly, I mean, you need like a TV guide. Like, you know, there needs to be a Twitch TV guide.
So the fact that you have over 3 million streamers stream in
That's a
1
lot
month
every
period,
month,
that
yeah.
I mean, I think that's too many at the moment. I mean, not for the industry, not for streaming as a whole, but for the perspective of a streamer,
Well,
I
I
think
would
that's,
qualify that by saying it's too much for the current infrastructure.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree with. I can see that. I mean, but ultimately, what I feel is that when something like this performs really well at the highest level, eventually that can only be good for the levels
No,
lower down.
yeah. I think like it's a total whole, but
Like it's
when
net, it's
as an
net positive,
individual,
but yeah,
it's like China. Well, China's growing, but like a number of its population is suffering in the process. But for
hmm
the greater collective, it's good. But for a significant portion of the population, it's
yeah,
not
that's a good way
great.
to frame it. And
So
I
yeah,
think ultimately Twitch, especially now that Mixer is in the mix, no pun intended, um, they need to do a lot more to improve their infrastructure. I'm not particularly familiar with Mixer, but I would expect that they would have learned
they've
from the
done.
failure of
They
Edge. They
have
would have learned from the
some.
failure of,
Their
you know,
infrastructure is a little better. They had this thing called the Hype Zone, which really helped streamers. Um, the past raids and viewers between streamers based off the game they're playing. But I
mhm.
hear that's really dying now.
Well, I mean, call me paranoid, but that sounds like, you know, almost like a paygate potential.
Yeah, but they didn't use a pig. But it died. The momentum died for a lot of those hype zones. But that was
Hmm
like one of their ways around for discoverability.
hmm
But apparently things are changing already for Mixer, where it's not, people aren't going to hype zones. They took off the hype zone streamers off the front page, or they made it really hard to search for them. But now it's like a different, like the spotlight. So
hmm
Mixer's getting worse now. Even. Oh, what's up, Divine? Just got a game. You got Death Standing.
Death
That's a good game.
Stranding. Is that the Hideo Kojima game? Death
Yeah,
Stranding.
yeah. I've heard very mixed things from people. People love it or hate it, but
I
anyway,
that's isn't that kind of like every Hideo Kojima game?
yeah.
Like I personally love Metal Gear Solid 5, but I know some people who were like couldn't stand playing it.
hmm Yeah, but definitely. But I guess not to get off track. I guess it's sort of connected with this whole idea of too many streamers. Is where do you think smaller streamers fit in this future? Especially if we're considering that the number of streamers is not going to go down per month.
Right. Well, if anything, it's going to go. Well, I mean, honestly, a lot is kind of contingent on how Twitch decides to respond to this challenge by Mixer. If Twitch is smart, they would devote all of their resources to improving their platform, to improving their infrastructure, and indeed to improving it for the smaller streamers. In fact, for because once Facebook has a viable streaming platform, Twitch completely loses the ability to attract casual streamers, and it's kind of like microtransactions. You can have one or two big streamers who will generate a fair amount of money, or you can have literally everybody else. And
the Bernie Sanders approach.
Right, and I think honestly that's what Twitch should do. They should not get involved in a bidding war with Microsoft on this, because at some point either Google or Facebook is going to come. I mean, YouTube Live is on its way. YouTube Music is already getting that, and as soon as Facebook launches a viable streaming platform, that's it. You lose the ability to attract a casual streaming audience because it's just so built into everybody else's life already. Like, you know, no account required.
Yeah.
So if I were Twitch, what I would do is focus on creating that environment for smaller streamers. For people like you and me, it's like, okay, well, there's a reason for us to stay with Twitch and not want to try to go to Mixer, or not want to try to go to Caffeine, or not even try to want to wait around to see what Google or Facebook is going to do. So I think ultimately it will become a consumer's market for streamers. I think smaller streamers will ultimately, you know, it could kind of go two ways. Either Twitch and Mixer are going to get embroiled in this big, you know, streamer poaching for influence, which is going to give Facebook the time to develop the platform in the way they need, and then that's going to become the main streaming platform. I think they're trying to do it with Instagram Live, but they need a dedicated live streaming platform. Or Twitch is going to create, you know, they're going to double down and be like, okay, well, this is going to be the people's platform. So, you know, I think smaller streamers are going to end up in one of those two places.
I guess I have a more pessimistic view. I think how do small streamers fit? They fit on the outside. Just because the vast number of them, it's still going to be a large enough number that the companies are just not going to care. It's going to be very similar to what we have now, where it's going to be, hey, these like top streamers generate most of our revenue, so we're just going to focus on them, because unless they start losing a lot of the top guys, there's no reason for them to change their formula. And that's where I think it comes, is that there's just too many smaller streamers that they're going to be like, hey, it's going to be like America in like the 1800s or like the Great Depression. Oh, you got injured? Sack you. There's a line of like 200 people willing to take your spot. And I just feel like that's how it's going to continue, because the more popular streaming becomes, the more people you're going to have feel, oh, I want to try streaming. So you're going to still have a huge amount of surplus of people willing to stream, that it doesn't matter for these companies, these platforms, if you lose some of your more established, longer term small streamers, because you just have replacements. They're just bodies. And that's the way I see it right now, and it sucks. But I like, there's just the fact that there was 3 million people streaming in 1 month. Like, that's an insane number. Like, if you have those types of numbers, why do you have to cater to small streamer? The small streamer's still going to be left on the outside just because there's going to be so many people. The more popular it gets, more streamers.
That also depends. I mean, you have to consider, though, like, from the perspective of a company, it's like, what's your business model? Like, because turning over streamers like really quickly and never establishing audience and never establishing people who are consistently running ads and viewing ads, and
well, the thing is they're just going to care about the top streamers who are already doing that. So we're talking specifically about how small streamers are fitting. Like, they're going to pay attention. They're going to pay attention to those who get hundreds of viewers every time. And that's like, if I was Twitch, that's what I'd focus on too, because those are where you're going to get your generation of bits. That's where you're going to get your subs. That's where you're going to get your ad time viewing. That's sort of thing.
But that's what I'm saying, because you have to consider their success, their financial success is based around people developing communities. Yeah. And by creating an environment that is to people staying with a platform long enough to develop a community, like, that's ultimately not helpful for the organization. It's like, yeah, you have your big players, and like ultimately you would hope that, you know, you attract those to your platform. But I would say, you know, like, again, if you have 2 or 3 streamers who are getting like 20,000 viewers per stream versus 3 million streamers who are getting, you know, maybe an average of what, like 1,000 viewers distributed across all of those streams, it's like, I'd be curious to know what the metrics of that economy works out to be. Because
Yeah,
I ultimately think that having smaller but many established communities as a platform, that's what allowed YouTube to be so good because it was based on exactly that model. Like, yeah, you had like the two Chinese guys and you had a
hmm
Smosh and like you had PewDiePie. But then what really made YouTube successful was all of the micro communities that developed around these sort of mid-level users.
yeah, but I also think it really shows in Twitch's business model, the infrastructure of the platform itself, that it doesn't matter because that's the difference. YouTube was all about discoverability, so that's
Mhm.
why they thrived on those micro communities.
And that's
Twitch's
and that's why I'm saying that's why
discoverability,
Twitch needs to get its ass in gear and
yeah,
change.
but the fact that they don't would indicate their priorities are different. That they don't care about that. For them, I think it's we could have like a large number of communities that have like only 1,000 viewers or 100 viewers, or we got a small, some couple bigger ones. And I think here's what it comes down to. I'd love to know the numbers, and I don't think it's really recording numbers. Is if you're in a larger stream and people start subbing in bits, there's a thing called bit trains and sub trains. If it's a larger community and that starts, does that generate more revenue? Like, would if someone's in a larger stream, will there more people join in, and so the revenue will go up and disperse because of it being a larger compared to like 1,000 person stream?
Yeah,
Like,
so
how does the revenue compare with the average 1,000 viewer streamer? And then the average 10,000 viewer streamer. That's what I'd be
yeah,
interested to know
I
because
would like to see
then
those
that
metrics.
plays a huge role. Like, yeah, cool, we can have like 3 million 1,000 viewer streams, or we could have
Mhm.
like what like 10,000 like 10,000 viewer streams. But if the average amount of money those 10,000 are making dwarfs whatever those 1,000 viewer streamers are making, then who cares about them?
But yeah, but then again, it's like there's a strange balance of like a community that wants to support a streamer versus a community that develops in a way that's supportive to the actual platform that it's being streamed on. Because don't forget, a lot of these people's income come from personal donation. That's money that you don't that Twitch or Mixer doesn't necessarily see.
Yeah.
So I would be curious to see how that balances versus people who use the actual infrastructure of the platform to support their streamers. And what that would say to me is like now would be the perfect opportunity for Twitch to create ways by which viewers are encouraged not to bypass the infrastructure of the platform in order to support their streamers. Yes, that requires better discoverability on Twitch. Yes, that requires a higher pay grade. But I think the benefit would be you can actually generate an appropriate amount of income from 3 million viewer streams. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. I just don't think they're gonna do that.
I don't think they're smart. I don't think any corporation has the wherewithal to do that. But
And I don't think
ultimately,
they
I think
want to
that would
take
be
that risk. Why take that sort of risk, especially when you have investors? Because you know how it is. You're beholden to your board of trustees and your stakeholders meeting group, whatever. And the biggest thing is how much can you give them? And so they're not going to want to switch it up to lose. I don't know if Twitch is public, but they still have a group of trustees, that sort of thing. It's like, how much do they want to take? That group want to take the risk for that to happen?
well. But here's the thing: if you want to talk about it in terms of just high level finance, like why would Jeff Bezos ever challenge Bill Gates to a money battle?
Maybe it's his hubris.
Yeah, but Bill Gates has a net worth that's like $5 billion in excess of anything Jeff Bezos and all of his companies have ever achieved. That would be the most stupid move he could possibly make. Getting in a bidding war with Microsoft?
Yeah, but it's also about priorities. Who knows Bill Gates' priorities? I don't think Bill Gates has a high priority on streaming right now.
I don't think so either, but like if it really comes down to a battle of like currency, like Microsoft will always win that battle.
Yeah, but I think there's more factors involved than just currency in that. The
I
fact
think
that
so
like
too, which is
Amazon,
why
it's like it's connected to Amazon, which is the biggest marketplace for consumers now, and I think
but
that
the
plays a large role into it.
I think it does too, but to be perfectly honest, Amazon has done a really bad job of associating it. Now, I mean being able to subscribe to somebody with Amazon Prime, that's great. There are a lot of people who don't actually know you can do that.
No,
You
yeah,
know,
Amazon's not done a good job at advertising. They're getting better at advertising that though.
they are, and you know, you're starting to see specific like Amazon Prime loot certain games. That's
Yeah,
good. You know, that's raising awareness of the connection of the two platforms. Ultimately, I think the most beneficial thing would be to like instead of these like, you know, maybe $2 or $3 per month um transactions that like, you know, that come from subscriptions or whatever from smaller streamers. Who knows, maybe you can choose to get a slightly better payout in Amazon gift cards. You know, that Amazon would have to subsidize, but that would be another incentive for smaller streamers to stick with Twitch. You
yeah.
know, something like that.
I think would be really cool. So Humble Bundle, like the percentage of your purchase goes to charity.
Hmm.
If Amazon, when you're purchasing goods, you could have part of your purchase go to your
Oh,
content,
those.
your favorite
Yeah, yeah,
streamer.
yeah, yeah.
So like
That's
you could
cool.
set
That's a
in
good
like,
idea.
oh, so like Tim the Tatman or Dr. Lupo, and this purchase I want like 1% of this the revenue from this to go to him.
That would be a really
I
interesting idea.
think if I think if Amazon and Twitch did that, that'd be a game changer because then suddenly streamers can get little revenue just from their viewers buying
Like buying
stuff.
stuff on Amazon, yeah,
And
and there are a
then
lot of
that
people
would make the
that have done
streamer
that.
want to push products and help Amazon too, because be like, hey, it's like almost like free marketing because it'd be like, hey, look, I got this new thing. This is
Yeah,
on Amazon. I
and
really like
well,
this product. You can support me by buying this through
yeah, that I
Amazon.
mean that's I mean honestly that's brilliant, and the yeah, that's a really cool idea. I think you hit it on the head. Like the main advantage Twitch is always going to have is they have control of the world's largest marketplace, other than Alibaba, and that's something that, in terms of actually supporting the user base of Twitch, like you can use that. Like you have to be willing to use it for good, not evil. I'm talking to you, Jeff Bezos, but but it is possible, and it's possible by subsidizing just a little bit to ultimately gain a lot. Because if you gain the, you know, there are a ton of ways to make money. Amazon Prime for students has made Amazon a ton of money.
Oh yeah.
But now Amazon's been getting some really bad press. There's some really nasty shit that goes down in their warehouses. People are kind of moving back to the brick and mortar model because they're realizing that they're an evil corporation just like the rest of them. If you can win the trust of a developing online community like this, to the point where they want to integrate themselves so thoroughly in it that you become the exclusive platform for people who, you know, for mid-level streamers who can be supported through Amazon, think about that power.
Oh
Think about
yeah.
that influence.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we just gave Amazon their perfect idea.
Yeah, too bad Jeff Bezos isn't watching our stream.
Hey
Oh, he
man,
probably is. He's probably spying on us anyway, but who
hey
knows?
man, you just need to get the word out to his mistress.
Oh, I was thinking about this the other day. You know how Google got busted for illegally collecting medical data on
Mm-hmm.
people? You know, everybody who's been doing 23andMe and all that shit, do
Oh
they
yeah.
not realize that the ex-wife of Google's CEO runs that shit? Like, you remember when Google was saying like, "Oh, we want to provide like a worldwide
Yeah.
search database to provide you with
Yeah.
information." Oh, it's for you. It's for your own. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you think I'm gonna fork over my genetic information to you? Think again.
Yeah. No. No. Seriously, people don't realize. It's literally
I
in
know
their terms
nobody
of
knows.
service. It's like it tells you like that they can use your DNA info and they can sell it to anyone. It's
I know,
literally it.
I know. Like, and you know, if selling it to like whatever it is, like Ancestry.com, that's one thing. What about if they start selling it to health insurance
Well,
companies,
they definitely
and you
will.
try to get coverage, and it's like, oh, well, we see here that you have a predisposition to type 2 diabetes.
They're
Like we,
definitely already doing that.
so you know, I mean, that's totally unethical. I'm
Oh
sure I
yeah.
would expect that it's
But I
illegal at
mean,
some point,
like,
but.
you already signed away your rights to your DNA
So, like, yeah,
results.
and a
So
lot of people don't seem to understand quite how significant that is.
yeah, that's why I didn't do 23andMe. I was like, I really don't want to give them my DNA so they can
No,
sell
you
it to the
really
highest
don't.
bidder.
Like, you really don't.
So
But
yeah,
anyway, that's a little bit off topic. I mean, I think we've kind of covered a lot with what we see to be the future of streaming. I mean, there's obviously a lot of potential. It's a very exciting time for us because, um, really, I mean, we all feel very passionately about our own content creation and sort of wanting to share it with all of you. But when these larger scale moves happen in the industry, it opens up a lot of possibilities for what the future might hold for, even streamers like myself and Pro and the Prozone Empire. So really, I mean, it's kind of the waiting game now. We just have to see what Twitch does.
Yeah, basically, just a rundown, a recap. We think basically the Move, Shroud, and Ninja Mate are great for streaming overall. They incite competition and innovation, and they
Hmm.
force Twitch from being laid back and have the inertia they've been having.
Yeah.
But we're just waiting to see what type of model will emerge from it. Will it be more of like a salary model where it's like we'll pay you this amount of money for this many years to stream only on our platform,
No.
or it'll be more like a record label money idea where like, hey, we think you'll make this much, we'll advance your contract this money now, and then we will recoup whatever it was to subs, bits,
Hmm.
etc. later. So we don't know with how that's going to turn out. I mean, how that turns out will affect how mid tier streamers will be put into like, and we're talking couple hundred, couple thousand viewer
It
streams
certainly
will
will.
be put into that. But don't think it really affects small streamers because it won't. Because being a small streamer means you won't have enough revenue or clout to be able to enter the system. But what that system will create will be interesting based off like how Twitch will respond and the innovations Twitch will bring in for their mid tier and even maybe their small streamers.
Yeah, hopeful. I mean, we hope.
And then like how Mixer responds, and then that could be a trickle down effect. I hate the idea of trickle down effect, but
Well,
it could
it's
be
just
like a
been proven
trickle.
time and time again it doesn't work. But in a
Yes,
sense, it does. It's socially, it kind of
yeah.
works.
So it could work in streaming just because of the moves larger streamers make creates a vacuum that would allow potential smaller streamers to rise
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. Not every small streamer is going to benefit, but there could be potential vacuums through that. But we
It
also
does, and
talked
it
about
just comes down to the shifts of the infrastructure.
exactly. But we also talked about the interesting thing of like if this becomes more mainstream, we've seen like Ninja's move was put on nationwide news outlets when he moved. The more mainstream,
Just for those of you who aren't necessarily as familiar with that, that's like a major step forward for the actual publicity of streaming.
yeah,
I mean, just
definitely.
like the way that live streaming is even considered, like even 2 or 3 years ago, I think that would just be totally unfathomable. I think that's really significant.
But
That
as it
we've
becomes
been
more
able to
mainstream, it'll be interesting. We were also debating how mainstream media will then potentially get into streaming. We're already seeing Bernie Sanders has a
Yeah,
stream,
yeah,
a
yeah.
Twitch account. Alexandra Cortez has a Twitch account too. Like the idea, what happens with the media? Are they going to do it more like their personas? So like, say Rachel Maddow, will she start streaming? Or
Hmm.
will the major news corporations and like major media corporations go, hey, why don't we just live stream our shows, our scheduling like we do for cable? And that
Yeah.
would definitely change the dynamic as well. So it's really cool to see how we're trying to figure out potential ways main media would be entering this sphere and how
And
that would
it's interesting you
change.
should bring up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders because I think in terms of actual news networks, they've kind of set the precedent for that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I would love to see a Rachel Maddow stream.
That would be interesting if she didn't do it like her normal show. And it was
I
more
mean, but
like,
yeah, no, I would like to see it kind of like a little bit. I think she's a brilliant woman. She's one of the most together political commentators. And oh, maybe we shouldn't make your channel like political, but yeah, I would really be interested to see a Rachel Maddow live stream.
but it would be interesting to see how mainstream media would enter
Very
live
much so.
streaming.
Yeah.
But we also,
Even like you were saying, like even things like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network,
mhm.
whether they decide to do actual character pieces or whether they decide to just run their regular programming with the Twitch as a platform, who knows?
Yeah, because Twitch has done that. So for Halloween, Twitch did these marathons of old like 70s and 80s horror films.
Oh, that's right.
Just
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would just run them, and then there's times when they've done that with Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon. So
That's
we've already
right.
seen it. So it's interesting. Would major media continue that, or would they come
Hmm.
up with original content exclusively for streams?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, terrestrial cable is probably still their main revenue source, so they probably wouldn't want to completely cannibalize
That's what
that.
I thought. That's why I don't think there'll be the programming. It'd be maybe
Mm,
more original programming because they realize this is an audience of viewers who watch streams. Clearly, they watch streams for a reason, and they would probably want to modify their content to do that to get this audience that they're not reaching with
yeah.
their cable programming.
Right. Exactly.
We also covered ideas on too many streamers. Disco thinks, but we've especially there can't be too many streamers, but the idea that more streamers you have means more interest. It helps streaming as a whole. I took more of the view there is a point where there's too many streamers, only in terms of for the individual streamer, especially smaller streamers. There's a limit. If there's too many, that's I forget what we were talking about. We were talking about China. Like the collective whole, China's improving, but there's certain portions of the population that suffer as a result. So we had differing views on too many streamers, but we both agreed that as an industry, there's not too many. But as an individual streamer, I feel there is a limit to how many streamers there should be in terms of. But we talked about it's also the infrastructure. The way the infrastructure is for streaming, especially on Twitch and Mixer right now, makes it so that there are too many streamers, I think, for a smaller stream.
I definitely agree with that. I think the actual number is not too many, but I think the way that that number is presented makes it feel that way.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about where we think smaller streamers fit. I said they don't fit. Not much will change as a whole, except there might be some trickle-down effect based off policies they make for mid-level streamers that they then trickle down to smaller streamers. And it has happened. So the whole idea now affiliates can get revenue from ads.
Yeah,
There's a trickle-down effect that they saw a backlash because partners could, and they decided to trickle it down to affiliates. Although affiliates don't make squat from running ads. Let's be honest. But it's a trickle down, so it's already been seen. So that's where I see small streamers fitting.
It's the psychology behind it.
Exactly.
It's as a small streamer being taken seriously by the platform, which is why I think there are some encouraging signs that Twitch might try to, do as I theorize.
Yeah. So I definitely think there's that's how I feel smaller streamers fit in this future that we envision. It's more of a trickle down to nothing to trickle down there, but I don't think there'll be specific outreach really targeted towards small streamers to fit in the future. It just doesn't make much sense from a platform point of view.
I think the smallest member, because you got to think about who constitutes small, like the smallest members. Usually beginners, usually people with a peripheral interest, and usually people with no more investment outside of a very specific personal instinct. And what ultimately the platform has the greatest benefit to do is to unite people with common interests, to sort of distribute content that people feel passionate about sharing and distributing. And that's when you start to get into your mid-level streams. That's when you start to get into the people who develop actual communities, because without a stream that's capable of supporting that, it's just never going to come. So it never will make fiscal sense to specifically create infrastructure for small streamers. But the infrastructure that's developed even for the mid-level streamers, I think, has serious implications for
definitely, yeah. Hence the trickle down, with ad revenue, the trickle down to affiliates for Twitch. But speaking of creating communities, Twitch, I'm still waiting for you to create a K-pop tag. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm still waiting. I don't care if I'm a smaller streamer. I think if you allowed it. So look, the other day, I straight up looked for K-pop, K-pop streams, and they had The first things weren't live channels that had K-pop in their title. It literally was streamers with K-pop in their name. I'm like, great. I want to see live streams right now. They're doing K-pop, and you had to scroll down. That's ridiculous.
Well, hey, that's something that might be ridiculous, but that's also an open market advantage for you. So.
No, because my channel is not K-pop. So if anyone put K-pop in, you got to scroll down to get to my live stream that says K-pop in it.
You can't sort it by video title instead of user?
No. No.
Okay, well that's a serious fucking problem.
So there's one, like, let me look at it. Like, there's a way to do it, but it only shows VODs. It doesn't show live stream. So
Oh,
I
well
put
that seems like a
K-pop in.
serious oversight.
I put K-pop in the search bar. Literally just did it. It starts with K-pop, which is a streamer. Then Koopa Troopa. Like Koopa Troopa, it's not even K-pop. It's
Oh,
Coop.
is it not even K-pop
And
in
then
games?
Kopsov. No, because it starts with the one if it's a channel specifically called that. And there's a guy. There's a channel literally called K-pop.
Straight up called K-pop.
And then they go, oh, let's base it off of the most followers. And if they have the combination of all those letters in it. So
Okay, well,
Koopa
that's a serious
Troopa
problem.
has K-pop in it, but it's not even K-pop. And he has 178,000 followers. That's why. Then Kaposova, 52,000. And Koperista, 29.7k followers. Oh, and then you have channels. And then below that, you can look up past videos. There's literally nothing for live. Nothing live.
Well, that's a major oversight.
Oh, so I go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 channels. Like, I had to hit show more channels before I see the first live stream. And the live stream has playing Pokemon Sword when it's midnight, naming viewers as Pokemon K-pop song request Discord kit. So it took the 10th one to have a K-pop.
I mean, that's again what you're saying about the optimization of discoverability. Like, that's a major problem.
So, like, I think that's one problem for small streamers is, like, even if you have really good content and they're talking about you have to get discoverability on other platforms, I get that. That's why I have a YouTube. That's why I'm thinking of a new Twitter video series, short videos, the life of a PZ Emperor sort of thing to try to get discoverability off those platforms to bring to Twitch. But that's ridiculous. The fact that if I write in a word and it's obvious not having the live channels first.
Definitely.
I don't care about a viewer who hasn't logged in and streamed in 3 weeks and has K-pop in their name. That doesn't do me no good. If I'm searching and it's not like obviously a name or me trying to type a username, it means I'm trying to watch something related to whatever I put in.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a major problem.
Yeah, so that's why I don't think small streamers have much of a future in their future that we've been talking about, just because the fact that you have things like that. Like, how do you, I know this is a different topic, but how do you grow even with good content if you can't even be discovered? You have to use other platforms, but then you're competing. So like YouTube, Twitter, you're competing with so many other people on those platforms as well.
Well, but you see this across a lot of industries because, like, musicians these days, it's the same story. Like, they're expected to be their own agent, their own promoter, their own manager, their own, their own handler, and then you also have to, like, play music, and it's like, how can anybody manage that? Like, it's sort of a symptom of the way that I think bigger companies have come to treat media these days. So the only way to solve that is infrastructure. You need to change the infrastructure.
Yeah. But you have any general comments about this topic?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot.
I think we did.
I'm kind of in the same position as you, and I'm just really curious to see what happens next. Because there are a lot of problems. Some of those problems might have contributed to Mixer pouncing on the opportunity to make a big move. And now it's kind of like, the ball's back in Twitch's court, so we will see.
Definitely. So I think we're going to finish our talk on the potential future landscape of streaming. Maybe we'll do a follow-up if we see what Twitch does. Like,
yeah, I mean, I thought this was a really interesting discussion. I wish more viewers had been in here to contribute their comments as well, because ultimately this is a community thing too, and so we want to hear what you have to say about the content that you want to see, about how you think these things impact the way that you're going to consume streaming media. To me, that's another crucial part of the conversation.
It definitely is. It definitely is. But I think we will end the Imperial Forum for tonight here. As always, please join the Discord because you can post suggestions for future Imperial Forums.
Yes, that's right. And I will go ahead and tag that in the chat right now.
Yeah, it's discord.gg/y
Y,
uppercase
capital
Z
G.
lowercase gg, then uppercase G, lowercase m, uppercase A. If you join the Discord, there has a category we have on one of the chats for suggestions for the Imperial Forum. We cover a variety of topics. We've covered adoption. We've covered international security issues, aka North Korea and its nuclear weapons program. We covered streaming issues like tonight. So there's a wide
Yes.
variety.
And indeed, these Imperial forums are one of the hallmarks of the channel. So far as I can tell, there's not any other channel that covers as much diversity with the sort of level of thoroughness as the Prozone Empire. So definitely stay tuned and leave comments for what you would like to see us talk about in the future, because, the more we know about you, content that you see us discussing, that just makes our job so much more fun.
Exactly. And to let everyone else know, we do more than just Imperial Forums. We also
Yes,
have a
right.
weekly K-pop stream on Wednesday nights. If
Which
not
no one can
Wednesdays,
discover apparently, because if you type in K-pop, fucking Koopa Troopa comes up.
yeah. Good luck finding the K-pop, the real K-pop streams on Twitch. But this is your moment. This is your notification right now. Hit that follow button. Become a zoner. Turn on notifications so you see my going live tweet notifications on Twitch, and you'll find out when we do K-pop streams. But it's always Wednesday or Thursday nights.
Mm-hmm.
You have no excuse now not to know, and they're pretty cool. I think. I mean,
Yeah,
we get
in
a lot of
fact,
engagement, so I
we
mean
have a
that's
couple
gotta
of
be okay.
really good followers. We have a couple of really fun games and
Some
sort of,
quizzes.
quizzes that we do. I don't find those as particularly fun, but Pro really likes them. So, yeah, definitely stop by. You would be hard pressed to find anybody who knows about K-pop quite as much as the Emperor Protector 6. So, if you have even a peripheral interest in K-pop, this is the place to be.
Definitely, we've got some people who are just getting into K-pop. Tune in and stay. So
we even have some community members who have been on K-pop Star.
oh yeah, we have. So yeah, we got a whole variety of people. But I guess it's the final thing for all those who view, and this is sort of tied into what we're talking tonight about, especially about small streamers. If you really want to help a streamer grow, and you want to give them the power to be able to be in the system in the future and affect the future of streaming to an extent, you have to help them grow. And the way to help them grow is, yes, you can sub, that's great, but also interact in chat, and you spread the word about them on your social medias. That's the biggest thing.
And the more that sort of casual users and consumers of streaming do that, the more it kind of legitimizes the platform, because nobody would think twice if you posted a YouTube video on your Facebook. That's become sort of a common platform.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want streaming to be the same way, and I'm sure most of us do, because it's a wonderful platform. It allows for one-to-one interaction with the people whose content you enjoy. That's what's required. It's just required to be in the public eye, in the public psyche, and distributed as a normal channel of media, not just something that's niche. Because, as I'm sure you've noticed at this point, there's just so much available here. There's a lot of people who are really passionate, Pro is one of them, about the content that they're creating, and so it's just really so important that we continue to distribute it as widely as we can.
Exactly. And with that, we will be ending this Imperial Forum for tonight. Thank you those who came to the stream, and thank you for those who have decided to watch this on YouTube. Much appreciated. Be sure to check out all of our other videos. Be sure to check out the stream. Join the Discord. Come engage. It's appreciated. And one of the, I think, a hallmark of this stream and my channel is I like to interact with my viewers. We like to engage. We like to have intellectual conversations to just joking around. And I think you could say a lot of streamers are like that, but I really, truly think that is the case with the Prozone Empire. We welcome all, as long as you follow the rules and obey all my orders.
It is not a democracy.
It's not a democracy.
Like intellectual conversations. Have you ever noticed, like, in all those old, like, horror films, like, some guys like traveled like 100 miles in like a horse and carriage to like, and he'll like go into this guy's study. He's like, "Oh, would you like a brandy?" Like, and they're having these like intellectual conversations like in their library. Like, if I had brandy, I'd be like, I'd be drunk. Like, I wouldn't be able to sit there and be talking about this like, ancient history or shit like that. Like, brandy is so strong. Like, how about a water? Like, just traveled 100 miles in a horse and carriage. Like,
Nah,
maybe like the bathroom. Like, that
nah,
would be a nice thing to offer.
nah. Because you peed in your pants already. But anyway, thanks for everyone coming out, and catch you next time on Imperial Forum. Thanks for watching this discussion on the potential future landscape of streaming. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our other content here in the Prozone Empire, such as The Path to King, a narrative radio story following the path of Sung Cho as he begins his journey to become King of Goguryeo, to Objects of Korea, which are about the personal stories of the Emperor Protector 6, talking about certain items and how they relate to his personal experiences in life. And also, check out the Twitch channel and give a follow at twitch.tv/protector_6. Thanks again, and we hope you enjoyed and watched some of our other content.